Hello, this is my demo video for Lab 9229. Um, if you're working on how to literally build the topology, that's actually in another set of demos. The CCNA3 topology demos. There's two of them. There's basically, as I said in those videos, for the last three chapters of our book, of our course, there are six live labs, but not really six separate physical topologies. There's a topology for chapter 8. There's this topology, which you've already seen for chapter 9. So essentially, if you've built the topology for 9228, do exactly the same thing for 9229. The place where this will break down is our topology for the labs in chapter 10, because it's different. So what I've got here, I've got my three routers. I've got my DCE end here and then here. They have, as usual, no configuration whatsoever. And I also, as per usual, I have some configs ready to go for them. So the initial config, so what I'm going to do is set all this up. Now, one of the things that is different between this set of initial configs and the initial configs that I used for the previous lab 9228 is this line here. I just go ahead and preemptively turn on IPv6 unicast routing for all of them, even before I start any of this stuff. So I've got my clock rates, I've got my loopbacks. That's one of the things that makes this lab work the way it does, is these loopbacks are going to be, these loopbacks essentially simulate areas. And we've got our router configuration, we set up our network types, and then we set up a range. So let's get going with part one. So let me drag this over here. Router 1, boom, command line. Actually, let me do that with all three of them, because I don't need any other tabs on these except the command line tab. And they've all booted up. And see. Bam. And of course, as soon as you do this, you could really and truly, you could save save everything right here. And like my other labs, I've got most of part one done in 3 minutes. Now, let's go with part two. Going back to router 1, we're going to put our interfaces in. And of course, we're going to go back to, of course, put yourself in terminal config mode with config T. And what I'm going to do, all I'm going to do is put these addresses in. Copy. So I've got my description. I've got my link local. I've got my physical address. And I've got some loopbacks, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And just to be, if you want to double check at this point, you can do show IPv6 interface brief. And I can see my loopback. Notice I've got a specific loopback on my serial line, but I don't have a loopback necessarily on my a link local on my loopbacks. Now, actually, let me check that. Okay, it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't say to put a link local on these. And given the fact that these loopbacks are simply simulating networks, they're stubs of networks, we don't actually have any functional requirement that these things should have loopbacks. Notice that they're all slightly different. Let me do, let's see, let's think about this. Do show interface LO0. Now, the reason I'm doing this, okay, I did this because if you do show interface, you get layer 2 information. Let's compare this to do show int g 0 0 gig 00. I have a hardware address, a burned-in address. I have nothing like that. So when we're looking at the link locals on these loopbacks, it is as if it is making up randomly, perhaps, an IP address, a MAC address for this thing, and then doing the EUI64 process on it, because that FFFE thing smack in the middle of your interface ID, that is a dead giveaway. That's EUI64. Interesting. So let's move on to router 2. So router 2. And let me go back to my Notepad++. And it's going to get copy, paste. Boom. And interestingly enough, aha! I forgot to do no shutdown. And there we go. So let me go ahead and do, okay, serial is down. That's fine because the other side of the line isn't up yet. But when I do, I'm going to actually put the no shutdown command in here specifically. Now, the reason I did it this way, I have a no IP address statement in there specifically to make sure that there is no IPv4 information. Strictly speaking, starting from scratch with no interface configuration on any of these no address configuration on any of these interfaces, saying no IP address on an interface that doesn't have one is kind of redundant, but hardly the end of the world. Okay, interesting. Let's make sure that, go to, that's a problem. You know what? I'm going to reload. That was in the wrong place. So I did copy run start. You know what? I'm going to reload this one. No. Confirm. So it is going to blow away that. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to put this, sorry about that. I'm going to put this where it belongs, on router 3. And notice all of my interfaces have gone red again. Now, when router 2 comes back up, we can bring everything, okay. Now, let's try this again. And that's green. And that's green. Now we can do is, okay, I'm going to have to do this again. Go to router 1 and do CDP that's there. Go to router 3, set up CDP there. Okay, now let's go back to router 2. And I'm good. Okay, so that's, now we're all the way through part 1 of this thing. Basic device settings, all of it. So the next thing, of course, the final step, and this is probably where I'll stop this. I need to test my connectivity. So let me go back up to my topology table. Is, let's see, ping, and ping. You know, the simplest way to do this, FE80::3. Okay. There, okay, so now from router 2, I can ping FE80::1. Serial 0. Boom. Okay, so router 2 can ping router 1 and router 3. So I have, and let's show. Interesting. Oh, it's possible that it's not establishing neighbor adjacency because it's not on an Ethernet line. Serials behave a little bit differently. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video here. Actually, yeah, I'm going to stop this video here. The next part of this, I will do the routing and then the route summarization. Thanks for watching.